नमस्कार दोस्तों और जय हिंद। आप सभी को स्वागत है इन माय चैनल 1971 वॉर बुक सीरीज। तो दोस्तों, you have seen the first part of our video with Colonel Pradeep Saxena, who served as a second lieutenant in the 82 Light Regiment. He had talked about the initial phase of the operations supporting the Mukti Bahini, taking part in cross-border operations against the Pakistani forces before the war started, including rescuing refugees and family members of refugees as well, pertaining to the operations up to the month of August, September 1971. In the second part of the video, he will be talking about his experiences in the final offensive heading out towards Dhaka, taking part in the liberation of Akhaura, Brahmanbaria, Ashuganj, eventually crossing the Meghna river on Mi-4 helicopters with the entire 82 Light Regiment armed with 120mm Brandt mortars, including talking about how he almost got strafed by the Pakistani Air Force, being shot at, including his own counter bombardment fire onto the Pakistanis, closing up towards Dhaka. एक अनोखी एक्सपीरियंस हम जानने वाले हैं from Colonel Pradeep Saxena in the second part of this video. So let's welcome him to our program today.
In October, there was a change of troops turnover. Somebody else came and my battery came back to Agartala. And that was the first time I got to seeing the city. Though we had been there for now a couple of months. First week of November, we were asked to set up an OP on the ATC of Agartala airport. So
This was very close to the border itself.
Yeah, I'm just coming to that. Now, the advantage of the ATC was that today it is the old ATC at Agartala airport. That the ground floor was the arrival departure. The first floor had a restaurant and the aerodrome officer's office.
Okay.
And the second floor was the ATC.
Achha.
And I had, on top of the ATC, I had created a bunker and put up an observation post.
Okay.
Now, when I looked west, I would look across the airfield, and then at where the airfield ended, just 250 meters ahead was the Pakistan border, East Pakistan border, and beyond that was the famous place, railway station called
Akhaura, right?
Okay. So Akhaura, as a crow flies from the ATC, was about a kilometer and a half or so, or maybe 1.25 or 1.5 kilometers. That was as a crow flies. And my task was to keep an eye on the going-ons at Akhaura, whatever was happening. At this point of time, I would like to tell you that none of us was aware of what was happening in Delhi between Prime Minister Mrs. Gandhi and Sam Manasseh, as today now we all know of it, or that the army was built up was taking place. We knew, we were also not sure whether war was going to take place or not. Because all this while we had only been taking small actions. There was no full-fledged war officially declared or something. So these sort of activities kept us busy. It was a couple of days after Mrs. Gandhi had returned from that famous meeting with President Nixon that we were asked to come for a lecture, a briefing by the GOC General Gonsalves.
This was in Agartala only.
Agartala, in our unit location. Okay. We were the one who had a big ground at our disposal. So we were asked to organize. It was attended by all officers of the division.
Okay.
And that was the way when General Gonsalves spoke to us. And I still clearly remember three significant things. I may not be able to quote, in from the exact words, but general gist of it was, so first and foremost, he is a gentleman. Only God can stop this war. So those of us who have any doubt, shed it now before you leave this ground. Okay. So that was the first time we were clear that war was going to take place. Second thing he said was, he said, look to your right, look to your left, look to your front and look to your rear. Because chances are that one of you will be killed, one of you would be wounded, one of you would have lost a limb, and the fourth one will remain traumatized for life after the war would be over. And the third thing he said was, he said, gentlemen, we are going into East Pakistan. Its people have suffered. So remember, we are going as liberators and not occupiers. We have to be humane and treat them as such. And then, we got around to preparing for the war. And when we, our officers, etc., got around to war gaming the battle plans. And on 28th of October, our brigade commander, Brigadier Jaggi Bawa, he visited my command post. Now we were deployed very close to the Akhaura airport, just 250 meters at the end of the runway.
Achha.
Just 250 meters away from the runway. On my right was Romeo battery, I was in the center, and on my left was Papa battery. And just ahead of us, 250, 100 or 300 meters ahead was Pakistan. So we had to not only defend ourselves from the Pakistan counter bombardment fire, we also had to be prepared to defend ourselves from any ground action by Pakistani forces. Okay. Now, at this stage, I would like to mention that we had been told that the operation to go into Pakistan is going to be named as Operation Nutcracker.
Nutcracker.
And the code word is going to be Tally-ho. The code word for the start was going to be Tally-ho. Tally-ho was the code word for crossing of the IB.
Okay.
International border. Okay. Now, 20th, getting back to my story, 20th, then Brigadier Bawa came to my command post. And in my command post, I was that time doing the gun position also. Having finished off my OP duties, I was back to the gun position. And when, I had put a banner in my bunker, onto Dhaka. So, Brigadier Bawa came in, he looked from him, and then looked. So, you think you're going to Dhaka? I told him, rather cheeky, he said, but where else? Because one thing, one has known in all through military history, that the capital of the enemy is always the objective.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Always the war will only end once you have captured the capital. So I didn't explain it in that many words, but I told, but where else? So he looked at me, he looked at my CEO, Colonel Ganju, then he looked at my 2IC, Brigadier Mansanda. He smiled and says, okay, son, all the best, and he walked away. At that time, Debu, I honestly didn't know what were the plans.
You were a lieutenant, I would say, at that time.
Second lieutenant. I was second lieutenant.
Yeah.
So who would bother to tell me what the actual plan was? At that time, let me share here only that there were no plans to go to Dhaka, which of course I learned much later. But at that time, on 28th of November, when I had put that poster onto Dhaka, I did have the forecast that we were not going to Dhaka.
Okay.
Anyway, so on 30th we were to start, and we got the message that Nutcracker postponed by 24 hours.
Achha.
So it was postponed by 24 hours. On 1st, we got the message around noon, Tally-ho at 1800 hours today. So that was the code word to cross the IB. And all our OP parties, etc., had gone and married up with that victory. And About 8 o'clock in the evening, or just slightly before, we started firing. There were about 84 guns. We opened up, the whole sky was lit up,
Mm-hmm.
lit up and all, and we carried on firing. And sure enough, the Pakistanis fired back and all those things. And our troops started advancing and entering, and the fighting was going. We could actually, in some cases, we could see the action in front because we were just 250 meters from the thing and all. But further deep inside, we could not because Akhaura was further deep inside. Okay. It was night also. So we could barely see 250 to 300 or 400 meters. But that operation done, the war had begun.
Mm-hmm.
For the next 3 days, we were firing at each other and they were firing at us. We
Constant bombardment on Akhaura.
yeah, on both from our side and from their side.
Mm-hmm.
And one out shell landed into our gunpit and destroyed one of our guns.
Achha.
In
What
my
about
country.
happened to the crew, sir?
They were injured. In Romeo battery, the boys were killed.
Mm-hmm.
And in my case, the one round landed on my command post. It took away the front portion of the command post. But luckily, the command post stood its ground. It did not collapse. So we were not hurt. But the front portion, the mud, etc. and all. Okay.
Any specific targets that you fired on Akhaura, sir? I mean, that were present in Akhaura city?
See, now it will be very difficult to recap because there were so many targets. Each gun was firing. We were firing at one point and target A. Then we would fire at target C. Then we would come to target B. Then we get back to target A. Then again, so it was depending on the sequence, how the battle was unfolding, that we were required to fire. Because you see, what happens is when the artillery fire is planned,
Mm-hmm.
you have to keep in mind the safety distance of the equipment which is being used.
Ha 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 ha.
So when a 120 Brad mortar shell is being fired,
Mm-hmm.
you have to keep a safety distance of 350 meters.
Okay.
Okay, so you have to keep in mind that your troops have to be 350 meters behind this
Minimum.
minimum. Otherwise, there is a danger of some of our own shells landing on our own boys
Mm-hmm.
and people becoming injured due to friendly fire.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with regard to 75-24, the range was 200 meters.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a differential of 150 meters. So targets which were selected for engagement by us were those where the infantry was going to come at a later stage.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And the ones where our ammunition was going to be of greater use, like MMG post. If they were in a bunker, our shell was going to be more effective than a 75-24 shell.
Okay.
So we were, earmarked for such targets. But it would be very difficult for me to give the detailed breakdown because you see there were so many targets and being engaged over 3 days, so it would be very difficult for me to give down estimates. Here I would like to just mention that the plan of 57 Mountain Division was to attack Akhaura and Gangasagar.
Acha.
These were the two strong points.
14
Which
guards. Or, matlab, that
Yeah.
other
So
thing-
as we were looking from Agartala, both these one in a linear fashion to our west. Okay, with Akhaura actually in the north and Gangasagar about 8-10 kilometers to the south.
Mhm.
Okay, and some of our effort was to bypass Akhaura and capture some of the ferry sites to its further to its north. And some of our elements had gone in between Akhaura and Ganganagar and cut off the withdrawal of Akhaura from behind, troops in Akhaura from behind. Opposite us was 27th Brigade of Pakistan Army with Brigadier Saidullah, who was the commander. And overall against us was 14th Park Division under Major General Qazi
Abdul
Muhammad
Majid.
Pachilka. He was there. They had one brigade in Memansingh, they had one brigade in Sylhet, and some elements in Maulvinagar,
Mhm.
and then the rest of the brigade, 27 Brigade, which was there, they were there opposite us. And Akhaura was the strongest strong point because it was a tri-junction
Mhm.
of rail links. The
Right,
Dhaka,
right.
the Chittagong Dhaka rail used to come there.
Mhm.
The Sylhet Akhaura rail link used to come there,
Mhm.
and from Akhaura to Dhaka the rail link used to carry on from
Mhm.
there via Brahmanbaria and Sindhi
Mhm.
to Dhaka. So this was the one, and it was the strongest port,
Mhm.
and it cost us the maximum number of casualties
Mhm.
at the start of the war. On 4th, we had an officer from 65 Mountain Regiment who was there with the brigade, who who was killed, Captain Mani, and I was asked to go as his replacement.
Okay.
So I was back again, and as luck would have it, I was asked to go and join up with 4 Guard, the partner with whom
Mhm.
I had already operated from August onwards, so Colonel
Mhm.
Himmat and I, we knew each other, so he was very happy with that. Now, what happened was that I had to reach the company, the Alpha company, which was being commanded by Major Chandra Khan,
Oh,
who was also
okay.
who was also acting as the 2IC of the
Mhm.
battalion. He was there, and I had to go between Akhaura and Gangasagar.
Mhm.
Now, in Bangladesh, the terrain is riverine,
Mhm.
so there is plenty of water bodies,
Mhm.
rivulets, streams, ponds.
Mhm.
So you cannot drive straight. You have to meander your way through
Right, right.
each of these and hope like hell that you don't get stuck up
Mhm.
uh, into any of these there, and the ground is a little boggy.
Mhm.
So I started off, and around 10 o'clock or so, I actually now officially entered Bangladesh, East Pakistan. Before that was unofficial entries, but now
Mhm.
officially I entered from the Akhaura BOP, the BSF post, even in my jeep with the windscreen down, and I had a party of myself, my driver, my radio operator, and my technical assistant. The 4 of us were there. And we started, then we were doing zigzag, and though the distance between Akhaura and Meghna Sagar was about 8 to 10 kilometers,
Mhm.
the road, the track on which I was, we were just barely about anywhere between 100 and 250 meters wide. That was the only space through which one could go.
Mhm.
By the way, Katasagar is the place where last night Edward Eka got the Paramvir Chakra
Right,
for
right.
Sana.
Mhm.
He made the supreme sacrifice and third. So when we were going past, then I suddenly found uh, push sound and followed by another push. I got shaken up. I said, what the hell is that? So I looked around and I found our tanks, PT-76 tanks, engaged in a tank battle with the Pakistani PT-76 tank. They also had PT-76 tanks.
Acha. Uh,
So they also had Shepherd tanks,
hmm.
but they were used on the west of Dhaka. On the eastern side, because the ground are more boggy, more riverine, they were using PT-76.
These are captured PT-76 tanks, right, sir? Or gifted tanks, I think. Gifted from these PT-76 tanks that Pakistanis were using.
Yeah,
They were gifted by, I think, the Malaysian or
they, they
Malaysian.
had PT-76 tanks,
Mhm.
and we also had PT-76 tanks. There was a squadron of PT-76 tanks there,
Mhm.
and we had a squadron of PT-76 tanks led by Major Lieutenant, later on Lieutenant General Shamsher Mehta.
Mhm. Shammi
So
Mehta.
there was tank duel was going on.
Mhm.
So I hurried along and didn't want to stay there to watch the fight because at any moment I could be hit. I
Mhm.
could become a target for any of the shells missing the tanks. I could get caught.
Mhm.
So luckily nothing of the sort happened and I carried on. I must have gone another 10-15 minutes ahead when I suddenly found 4 specks on the sky.
Acha.
I immediately knew what they were. I told the driver, stop, put them in the circumdam vehicle and all of us to disperse in 4 different directions. Okay. And by the time we had finished, the specs were the 4 Sabre jets, they had come over us. And they had come and had taken a barrel rolled over me, split into two
Mm-hmm.
sections of two aircraft each. Two of them went into the sun, and the other two came strapping at me and onto the tanks. So I was wondering, I said, why the hell are this guy? After me, I'm a solitary jeep and four chaps. Why are those sabers attacking me? But then I looked, realized that they were actually attacking the tanks
Mm-hmm.
and our troops who were out there in the open. But the starting point used to be where I was there because I was just about 300 meters away from where they shot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of becoming a landmark for them to start engaging.
Okay.
And after these two super jets went past, the next ones came and they were carrying out the rocket attack. The anti-tank rockets which they were having. So then the first two came back again. This time they were now attacking with the rockets, and then the next two came back again. So this carried on for about 18 or 20 minutes. And by the time they had finished the second round of attack, and they were preparing for the third one, R1 aircraft came, two NATs and two MiG-21s,
Okay.
and there was a fight.
Mm-hmm.
So we were now sitting down below and watching. There was nothing we could do.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was no point in even attempting to fire at them. It was foolishness.
Mm-hmm.
We were just taking, cover, and we were waiting for the air raid to be over. But luckily, the Pakistanis didn't put up a fight, and within 5 minutes of the start of the top fight, they turned tail and headed west towards Dhaka.
Gotcha.
So that was the end of the second interesting development I had faced that day. First was the tank one, second one was,
These
the-
saber jets, yeah.
I mean, this is something which even the current air chief can't claim. He has not been at the business set of a saber jet, but I have.
Right. Though our current air chief is a test pilot, to be honest. Yeah.
No, he wouldn't have tested saber jets against him, no, firing it.
Right, right.
So anyway, I joined the battalion, and in the evening, we got the information that the Pakistanis were attacking us with 3 tanks. Now we had our own arterial guns had got stuck up
Gotcha.
in the swamp,
Mm-hmm.
so they were not there. So we were without arterial guns. So we organized small tank hunting parties.
Mm-hmm.
So as and when the tanks came by, we climbed up from behind and dropped the grenades inside. Opened the hatch and dropped the grenades.
So you
inside.
did this with PT-76 tanks. I mean the 4
Yeah.
guards.
Yeah. So they were there. They had a Naik. I forget his name. He was the one who, I think Bishambar is his name, was very quick in there. He managed to destroy the first tank by dropping the. And as he jumped and he was going for the second one, the third tank coming from a different. He shot it and he was died.
Acha.
But the second tank was, another person from his party had got on top of it and dropped So 2 out of the 3 tanks had been demobilized, and the third one thought it was better. Discretion was the better part of valor.
Mm-hmm.
So it stopped and went back. So that is how 4th December ended.
Okay.
Now, this is where, we were still at Akhaura and fighting was going on. On 5th morning, around somewhere between 9 and 10,
Mm-hmm.
the Pakistanis, they surrendered. And Akhaura was occupied by us. 18 Rajput was the one, 10 Bihar, 18 Rajput, and 4 guards, there were 3 battalions. So we had captured the place, and so Akhaura was there. After that, the brigade was given the task. 5th, we stayed put, reorganized ourselves, replenished, took rest, and on 6th, we resumed our advance. Now we were going towards Brahmanbaria, just to our northeast, about 20 kilometers to our northeast.
Mm-hmm.
There was a railway line which was going on the Bandh along with us, but the rail track had not been removed as yet, and all vehicular movement was over the railway track.
Gotcha.
Now here, before I get on to the 6th, I must like to mention here that Akhaura, besides being a strong point, tri-junction for the railways. It was on an elevated area generally.
Acha.
So because the railway line and the roads in East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, used to be on elevated ground. So that those elevated
एक
ground
embankment होता था, I think.
became like a ditch ka month. It became a defensive line, like a Maginot line. So they had prepared defenses on that
Acha.
and gain and right, and so they put up bunkers on that, constructed bunkers on that. So we had to really fight our way through to capture them.
Okay.
And in doing so, we suffered casualties obviously, but we were able to overcome them.
But your task was mainly to give artillery support, right, sir? To the
Yeah. Now the problem was, my problem was that we were so close to the enemy that I could not engage them with my artillery fire because remember the 350 meters of safety distance. So it was only after we had captured Akhaura that actually my guns could be used for the role they were supposed to be.
Acha.
Okay. There. Now, on 6th we started advancing towards there. On our right was the railway line, and beyond the railway line was the Titus River.
Titus.
And we were advancing towards Brahmanbaria, and the bridge on the Brahmanbaria at Brahmanbaria was blown up by the Pakistanis.
Okay.
It was on the Pagla River. Okay. So we went and occupied the position on Pagla River, on the east side banks of Pagla River, and settled down further the same. Now here there is, I would like to mention, you must have seen in the group, a lot of mention is being made about disobeying orders or initiative and all those things. I would like to mention here that at the start of the war, our plan was not to go for Dhaka. I do not know what was the thinking at the national level for it, or at the army headquarters. There is second different there. In that, it was very clearly given that 57 Mountain Division with 2 brigades was to capture Akhaura and Ganga Sagar, with 61 brigade in reserve, and then 57 day was to go to capture Brahmanbaria and secure all areas east of the Meghna River.
Okay, up to Ashuganj and those areas.
Including Ashuganj and all those things there. And that's where we were supposed to stop. Now 311 Brigade was to be assisted by 73 Brigade, which was from Ganganagar, which was moving via Kaspa towards Brahmanbaria. Okay. They had, I think, 19 Punjab which was involved in that. So having reached Brahmanbaria, at that stage our task was, at the higher level, at the brigade level, our task was to go and secure the line up to Meghna River.
Okay.
The rest of the division, leaving 311 Brigade behind, was to then turn south, that is 73 Brigade and 61 Brigade, under 57 day was to turn south, and then go and capture Chittagong.
Acha. But Chittagong mein, sir, already 23 Mountain Div was going in.
No. 23 day was not going for Chittagong. 23 day was going for Menamati and Komila.
Acha.
And Lalmai Hills, which are there and in between Komila and Menamati. We were supposed to go down and there. And 23 day after capturing these was to secure all areas up to Narayangarh, which is along the Yamuna or Meghna as they call it.
Acha.
The same Meghna which was to go further south was the same. But we were supposed to go 57 days was there. So now 311 Brigade, of which I was a part of, was to stay put maximum at Brahmanbaria or to east of Meghna. So now you realize why the commander, Brigadier Baba, was asked me, so you think you're going to Dhaka? Because I was not supposed to go to Dhaka. My battery was supposed to stay east of Meghna only. No, they were destined to go to Dhaka.
Right.
That was the original plan.
But
and
another question, sir, why did you destroy
57 day was not supposed to go to Dhaka at that stage. Now, why that I can't answer because that is a plan which was made at the Army headquarters or Eastern Command. But I know this one that 5070 was not supposed to go to Dhaka. It was supposed to go for Chittagong. On 8th, I remember two things happening. Around 10:30 or so, we found a Chetak helicopter over us, which was generally carrying out a recce. We could make out that it was carrying out a recce. And then, after some time, we found another Chetak helicopter coming and joining it.
Acha.
Then, we found both the helicopters landing somewhere, and then both of them taking off. And then, they carried out further recce and went back. It was only later we learned that the first chopper was carrying our GOC, 57th Mountain Division, General Gonzalez, and he having seen the Pakistan Army in disarray and withdrawing from Sylhet, Memon Singh and Maulvi Bazar.
It is carrying
or
General
that,
Gonzalez, right, sir?
yeah. He realized that if this force could be prevented from getting to Dhaka, it would be a good job. Good idea. So he spoke to General Sagat, and General Sagat came along to see what was the thing on ground, and both of them then got down and got into one chopper and both carried out the recce and came to the same conclusion which General Gonsalves had come. That if we have to do something, we have to trap this 14-day VR.
Okay.
So they went back and made a plan which they sent to Headquarters Eastern Command. Now it is to the good fortune of the Indian Army that General Gonsalves, General Sagat and General Arora were all paratroopers.
All were paratroopers actually, yeah.
Yeah. And all had served with each other. So everybody knew each other's mind. And to make matters better for us, General Gonsalves was an AROP pilot. So he was having a better overview of what things were there. So to get back to my story, the plan was made to carry out a heliborne operation across the Meghna River on 9th. Now we 4 guards had already crossed Brahmanbaria and gone towards Ashuganj. We were asked to come back
Acha.
on 9th and concentrate at the stadium.
Brahmanbaria Stadium.
Brahmanbaria Stadium. My CO had fetched up and he told me the battery is behind. Call the JCO, ask him to split the battery into 2, 3 guns with 300 rounds and the other 2 guns with 200 rounds, put them under the senior JCO and 3 are there and they will go with you in the crossing of the Meghna. I'm looking at my map, I said, how the hell are we going to go across? I thought we were going to have some kind of a D-Day kind of a crossing, But then, when we reached the stadium, we found Group Captain Chandan Singh and overall standing there, and GOC, General Gonsalves, and CO 4 guards, and the rest, all of us were there. And Brigadier Mishra, he was the commander of the 311 Brigade, and CO also joined in. I also stood with the map and listening. So that was the time I realized that we were going to go in Mi-4 helicopters. Now I had no idea of the road table of Mi-4, but in my commando course, I had done an operation of going across a raid in a helicopter. So I had some idea of what a Mi-4 was. That's all, nothing else. So to cut the long story short, we then, we were told to now prepare your loads, get ready, and we will go about 3:30. We will take off. 2:30 the first helicopters are going to come. We will start loading and 3:30 we will take off. So Alpha Company under Major Chandrakant Pandit was earmarked to go in the first slot with 10 helicopters, and I was to be part of that because I was his OP officer. And Colonel Himmat decided to come along with us.
Acha.
My JCO meanwhile organized his thing, And the 10 helicopters were divided into two halves of 5 each. So in the first five half, Colonel Himmat and Major Chandrakant Pandey, and in the second half, I was in the second five.
Acha.
But within 20 minutes of each other, when we were crossing the Meghna, and Meghna is a massive river, about 5 kilometers, 4.5 to 5 kilometers wide. We were flying at about 2,000 feet or something, or maybe slightly higher. So when we were midway through, we started being fired upon from the ground by the Pakistanis with MMG and anti-aircraft guns.
Acha.
Our helicopters were open from behind, the rear clamshell door was open, and smoke was filled up, and we are coughing, we are holding on to dear life, looking down, and we are holding on to dear life. Today when you sit in the aircraft, when the air hostess says, fasten your seat belt and put your windows up of that. It sounds so amusing, but when you've gone through actual hell in war. And that is how we went through. Luckily, none of us were hit. And then we reached a place called Methikanda railway station.
Matikanda. Acha.
Methikanda. And the aircraft, hovered. And it wouldn't land. So we told them, utaro yaar. We said, nahi, utarna nahi hai, you jump. So about 10 to 12 feet from that height, we just jumped. And when we jumped, we realized why the helicopters were not landing. Because when we jumped, some of us went ankle deep, some of us went knee deep into the ground. The soil was so boggy, so loose, so soft. So we were actually dragging each other. Now, as we were landing, the Pakistani, they had a weak platoon, and the Mithikanda region, they opened up. So Major Chandrakant, with his troops, immediately pushed across to silence them. Well, when I landed up, I went to back towards Brahmanbaria side to secure the dropping zone. Our job was to secure the dropping zone because when the guns were to come, we had to have a hard standing for the helicopter to land. We couldn't drop our guns or the ammunition. So we required the railway station, the platform of the railway station, for the helicopters to land. So that was there, and Colonel Himmat was in the center with the 3rd Reserve with them. So that is how, probably 45 minutes to an hour, we had secured the dropping zone. By the helicopters had dropped us, gone back, and were loading for the second thing. Now here a very interesting thing happened. When the second lot came, the Bravo company, when they landed, instead of coming and joining us and strengthening the dropping zone, they, due to faulty map reading, went towards
Bhairab Bazar.
And they ran into the Pakistanis who were deployed at Bhairab.
Bhairab Bazar में तो सर div headquarters था 14 का 14
वही ना 14 कुवैत में करो ना. So the 14 day headquarters, there was fire. Now that is the time the company commander Major Surinder, he was known as Gandhi, they realized कि ये तो गलती हो गई, हम तो गलत जगह आ गए. So they quietly extricated themselves and pulled back. Okay, and came back to us, but by then 1 hour was lost. But nothing there were no casualties, there was no thing. But this faulty map reading had its own rewards. It should happen that the Pakistan Army, 14 days, sent the message to Niazi in Dhaka that Indian Army has dropped an airborne brigade. And we are not in a position to defend ourselves, so we are going to surrender tomorrow. So while our build-up continued at the road, actually we had gone to establish a roadblock. Our main task was to establish a roadblock so that 14 Dip doesn't link up with Dhaka. Okay. And it was a battalion group. It is the battalion plus the artillery element. So we were the battalion group. So our job was to establish the roadblock. Now once we had done that, the rest of the troops were being ferried in. So guns also came and everybody, So by about 4 o'clock, we were all ferried in, everybody had landed, everybody was in position. About 10 o'clock, the Pakistan 14 days surrendered to General Charles. They sent a message, we want to surrender. So they surrendered. Of course, we were some distance away, we could see the surrender, but that was the first surrender of Pakistan Army, large scale surrender. On 10th, they surrendered to General Charles. Having secured that, now the road to Dhaka was open. Because from Mithi Khanda via Narsingdi to Dhaka, there were no troops in between, except probably maybe some chutput either other, some platoon here or some company here. Otherwise, the road to Dhaka was open. So we started the advance 4 guards. By about 11 o'clock or so, we had no track, nothing. We just moving around the river track. And we came across some, empty wagons. We put our guns in it. We found the railway engine. We hooked it on and we chucked along and we reached Narsingdi about 7:38 in the evening. We stopped short of Narsingdi, unloaded, deployed our guns, and attacked Narsingdi at night. Now here at Narsingdi, at night while we were carrying out this operation, Major Chandrakant Pandit got wounded. And we captured Narsingdi on 11th at about 4 o'clock in the morning. But Major Pandit was seriously injured.
He's Major Chandrakant Singh.
Major Chandrakant. So he was seriously injured, and the next day he had to be evacuated by air. And his own NDA postmate, flying a ship, came and landed on the road, put him in the and took him away. He was refusing to go. He said, "No, I do not leave my troops." He said, "Nothing doing. You have to go," because he was bleeding profusely, and the bleeding was not stopping. It was a sweet dressings we had that was not stopping his bleeding. So we didn't want him dying just by bleeding. So he was then taken back to Agartala. And we then on 11th we had secured Narsingdi, which was I think about 42 kilometers northeast of Dhaka. And then between 11th and 12th, the whole of 311 Brigade, whole of 73 Brigade, whole of 82 Light Regiment, less 1 battery, 59 Mountain Regiment, or 65 Mountain, headquarter 57 Mountain Artillery Brigade. Everybody were ferried by these helicopter boys, non-stop, and we were there.
1110 HU and 105, I guess.
Yeah. So on 12th, we got the first letters from home. They were dropped by a Caribou aircraft. And we also heard the news of the USS Enterprise sailing up the Bay of Bengal. So the men asked, "Abhi kya karna hai?" I said, "Nothing doing. We'll stop waving at all the aircraft till I give you the all clear," because it was by now the Indian Air Force was dominating. There was no Pakistan Air Force in the air. So every time we used to have the aircraft flying over us, we used to wave at them. I said, "Now we'll not wave till I tell you." But luckily for us, the US Navy and aircraft from the Enterprise didn't interfere, and we did it. And on 13th, we were on the outskirts of Dhaka. Okay. Now, from Narsingdi to the outskirts of Dhaka, the place where we reached was a place called Demra. Demra is a ferry.
Very close to Dhaka.
Yeah. Demra is a ferry on the Sita Lakhya River. It is also called Buri Lakhya, but actual name is Sita Lakhya River. It is about 200 to 300 meters wide, depending on how the sea is. And it is either a distributary. It's a tributary. It goes and joins the Meghna towards at Narayanganj. So we were near Demra, around there. And from Narsingdi to Demra, we had every conceivable transport available for use. We had, because all our actual transport was already there, still on the other side of the Meghna. So we had trucks, we had auto rickshaw, we had cycle rickshaw, we had tonga, whatever was there, we just got on that and we were racing towards Dhaka. At that time, let me be very honest with you, we did not know that 11th, there had been a paradrop at Tangail. Because we were we were so focused on Dhaka,
Mm-hmm.
we did not know that this had taken place at Tangier, or a drop by two paras, and there was a link up a Pumli bridge with 95 Brigade with one MLI. But we were, focus was there. Now, on 13th, when we were deploying our guns near Demira, that was the time the Pakistanis made the last attempt to attack us.
Acha.
They crossed the Sitalakya River and attacked us.
Mm-hmm.
The company of Major Marba of four cars and my battery. So I was, I managed to excuse myself from the company. I said, sir, my boys are there, I can go there. Luckily, what I used to do was that since we had gone across an Heliban operation, out of the light machine guns that we had, I had told them that out of the three, we must carry two.
Acha.
So we that day were, as luck would have it, we were having not only two, we had all three light batteries, three light machine guns, because the rest of the battery had also fetched up.
Mm-hmm.
So while the guns were still some distance away, waiting to be deployed, we advanced. The recce party had come, and they had brought the third also along,
Okay.
LMG. So we had three LMGs, and we had about 15-20 boys with me. There was a small grove, bamboo grove, which was just maybe what 10-12 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
There was maximum height, and so the river was taking was coming from the right, and then taking a left turn, and then going along, and then again snaking along to the right towards Narayan. So it was a sort of an S, and this was a small enclave, and the river was just about 150-200 meters away from this small high ground grove, behind which my guns were coming in for action.
Okay.
So I immediately realized what it was. So I put one LMG on my left, I put the second LMG on the right, and the central LMG I took myself, and we deployed because the guns had not come as yet. So all the boys who were with me, we just spread ourselves with the skin, and I said nobody is going to open fire till I do not say, give the order. So these Pakistanis, they came close. When they were about 50 meters away, we opened up. And they were naturally caught, surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And they were,
Mauled down, to be honest.
that's right, they were caught very badly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a semicircular thing, so they were caught in a killing ground and they suffered casualties. And but they would not leave. So this fight continued, exchange of fire between them and us continued for about 40 minutes. What happened was that everybody realized what was going on, so they rushed troops to my assistance.
Mm-hmm.
And the RTOP who was coming with them, he gave the location of my guns only to engage.
Acha.
So he gave my location only to engage. So when he would say fire, I would say stop. When he would say fire, I would say stop, because whole RT brigade
Mm-hmm.
was, all guns were lined up to fire at me.
Okay.
Finally, Colonel Himmat asked, he says, Saxena, what's your problem?
Mm-hmm.
I told him the target is not safe. He says, why? I said, it's not safe. He says, what do you mean why it's not safe? So then I had to tell him, I said, it's my location. He said, oh my God. I just said, you can't fire, but this is the problem. So he said, what is the safe distance? I said, safe distance is the other side of the river. So we are on. So anyway, after about 40-45 minutes, the Pakistanis arrived enough, and they then withdrew, taking whatever wounded or dead they were. They left, I think, 5-7 or dead, and they wounded. They got into the ferry and crossed the river and went back. By about 10 o'clock, we had deployed ourselves, and at night, around 10 o'clock or so, the entire RT brigade opened up into Dhaka.
Acha.
So 13th, 14th, and 15th, every night from 6 o'clock in the evening till 6 o'clock in the morning, we would fire 3 rounds gunfire every 15-20 minutes into selected targets into Dhaka. And 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening, the Air Force is to come and engage the selected targets. Now there were 3 targets areas which were earmarked to be free from engagement. One was Dhan Mandi, which was not only the military cantonment, but also how the government officials and the embassies.
Okay.
The second one was the Christian Medical Hospital,
Mm-hmm.
which was a district hospital, the main hospital in Dhaka. And the third one was the Dhaka Intercontinental. They were the entire press corps of the world was staying there.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we didn't want to go. So 13, 14, 15, we carried on. There was no further activity. On 15th in the evening, we got a message that surrender talks in progress, surrender likely, ceasefire likely at 9, after 9 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay.
About 5:30. So we were very happy. So that night we dropped everything we had
Mm-hmm.
and carried on firing and all those things. About 9 o'clock next day we got the message 8:30 or 9. Ceasefire at 9:30. No repeat, no firing without personal permission of the army commander.
Achha.
None of us could get to the army commander, so to get a personal permission. So we knew that it was ceasefire. And then about 9:30 or so, we got the order out of the ceasefire. Suddenly, the whole place became dead silent. You
Mm-hmm.
could feel the silence because your ears had been so used to artillery shelling and aircraft would go overhead and all those things that suddenly the thing was, it was more deafening than actual sound. And then, we got a message at 10:30 rendezvous near Demra for victory parade and 4 cars, one troop of 63 cavalry and one by gun of 82 light. So around 12:31 we crossed the thing and 1 o'clock we started our march toward Dhaka. And 3 o'clock we reached the race course. In between all those photographs I've already shared in the group. So people were shouting, crying, hugging, screaming,
They were so
doing garland.
thankful, to be honest.
Yeah, and literally Joy Bangla, Joy Indra, Joy Manekshaw, Joy Jain, and that's how it was. And it was reminiscent of the war movies of Second World War.
Yeah.
And we just, it was an experience which I can't describe.
You must
It
have
is
seen in
just-
movies.
you only feel it.
Yeah.
You can only see it. And then, the surrender took place and that's how it was. So that night, we slept outside Dhaka Intercontinental with the gate. The chaps came, saab, andar aa jaiye. We said, nahi, we don't have orders to sleep inside. So we slept. And then I looked at the stars in the sky and I said, oh, so this is war. The war had ended.
Yeah.
Now in one go only. Then around sometime after Christmas, we had Sam Manaksha coming us, and he
So, what
addressed.
were your duties in Dhaka at that time, after the end of the war?
No, I'm just coming to that. And we, of course, the rest of the elements are moving into Dhaka. Our unit was deployed located in Dhaka University area,
Achha, achha.
and our mess was in the Students Teacher Center, which was just about 1.5 kilometers short of the Dhaka race course. And after Christmas, when Sam had come, he addressed the officers. Men he had addressed in the morning. In the evening, he addressed the officers. And then after that, the dinner was there, and Sam met all of us. And Sam was introduced to all of us. And two people he was introduced. One was three people. One was my CEO. He was Colonel Ganju had organized the logistics of the river craft and the guns and ammunition and administration because all of us had got for river operations. And once the major achievement of his contribution was that he had moved medium guns of 24 medium and 40 medium, the two batteries. And once those guns had reached there, the Pakistanis knew that the war was over.
Okay.
Because they never visualized that the Indian army would be able to move the guns across the river because they were so heavy. Each gun was about 19 tons. So if those guns could be moved across the Meghna, then they knew that it was over. They could do anything. And the thing was, he spoke to Himmat, and he said, Himmat, I believe you had got an invitation. He said, yes, sir. So what have you thought about it? He said, I declined. So, and then he looked at me and I was told, I explained to him what I had experienced in the Heligon operations. So he says, oh, so you placed flag? I said, yes, sir. He says, don't worry, I face it every day last 10 days in Delhi. So that was his way of, putting the risk. On 2nd of January, Mr. Tajuddin Ahmed, who was the acting president, he came.
Prime Minister, I think.
He was the president, I am prime minister. And then on 12th, Sheikh Mujib came. And on 16th, we had the Ajanta Arts Troupe, which was there. And 19th, we left. The first elements left Dhaka.
Achha, 19th of January, 1972.
19th of January. 19th January, we crossed at Narayanganj into Menamati and Komila. So we came back to Agartala. And then from there I came, I think 20th or so we had reached Agartala, the advanced elements. And I think 21st or 22nd I came back at flew from Agartala only. So that broadly was the story of this. The rest of the unit then stayed there in Agartala for a month. And then from there we came back to Tezpur. Now when I got back to Tezpur from the leave, I was asked to rejoin at Tezpur. This was the same place where we had been dined out the previous year in June. And I had been appointed as the adjutant.
Gotcha.
After that, in September, we moved to Western Sector from there to Surat, general area Surat. And in April 73, May 73, we moved to Ranchi, where we were supposed to originally move in February 71.
Right at that time.
So after reaching Ranchi, we were then reorganized into light battery. We had shared one battery. So now it has become 8-to-1 light battery with 12 guns. Previously it was 82 Light Regiment with 18 guns. So we had shared Romeo battery.
Gotcha.
And we were now there. Colonel Benju went on posting, and Major Khanna, who was the OC, who was the battery commander, had become the OC. And we were there in exactly the same location where 82 Light Regiment had been raised on 1st March 1961.
Gotcha.
The same. Yeah. And then the last thing was there, at that time I must tell you that the prisoners of the war were there in Ranchi. So we were under canvas, under tanks. And finally in March, we were earmarked to escort a train from Nampur to Dhaka border, Atali border.
Achha.
600 or 650 prisoners were there. There were only chasers in Nova and one RMO. Because there was a lot of tussle going on about the atrocities of the Pakistan army. So 109 officers were being shortlisted for what they had committed, and they were being held back. So the ruling had come that all trains which will go now back to Atari would be without officers.
Achha.
Without Pakistani officers, they will be held back. So we sent the men, and I remember as we crossed, there were three type of soldiers who. I must tell you that before we left Ranchi, I addressed all of the men, Pakistani troops. I said, listen, in 5 to 7 days you'll all be home. So I know you're duty bound to make an attempt to escape, which your duty as a prisoner of war. But don't be foolish, because now is not the time to make an escape. You should have done that before. Now there's no point in getting hurt or injured or getting hospitalized or getting killed. So control your emotions, wait for 5 or 7 days. Once you've crossed the border, then you are at home. Then you do what you want to do. But don't try and escape. And trust me, they will. Nobody made an attempt to escape because everybody is keen to get home. Then we lined them up for release from crossing into Pakistan and Wanda. So there were people who were very arrogant. They were very upset because they were actually that anger and arrogance was against their own officers. So they had to let down. Then there was another lot who had resigned to their fate, but they were happy that they were going home. And the third one was the ones who were practical. I remember one of them saying, "Sir, we lost because we didn't have officers like your army. The way you looked after us, the way you have treated us, no enemy would treat us. We wouldn't have treated you like this. So now we know why you have won over us." And the last person to leave was the medical officer. I think his name was Javed or something. Javed Ahmad or Javed Khan, something like that. So we saluted him. So that was my trust with Bangladesh or East Pakistan, or which started off in February 72, 71 and ended in March 74.
74.
Trust me, even now when I used to meet the CEO, used to say, "Bhaga, how did you know that you were to go to Dhaka? None of us knew." I said, I don't know. It was just a gut feeling I had, and I just,
Right.
that's all. That's briefly or broadly my story.
And it's such an honor, sir, that you took part in this war and took part in the liberation of a suffering people. Still a wonderful experience, sir. I mean, mind blowing. Yeah.
No, I see, I didn't do anything extraordinary. Oh, everybody else did the same thing. The Indian Army was all there. I'm fortunate enough to share my experience, to share my narration with you. There are others who have done much more than me. There are people who got gallantry awards. People have lost an arm, people have got wounded, people have lost a limb. They have done much better than me. But we all fought for a cause. It was to liberate Bangladesh.
Right.
Whether we fought at the Eastern Front or whether we fought at the Western Front, we all fought for the cause. Even those fighting in the Western Front, they were fighting for the cause for the Bangladesh. Because they were carrying out a sort of a holding action
Right.
to prevent any loss of territory so that we in the East could liberate Bangladesh. So,
That's right.
I mean, it was, while we may get a major portion of the credit, those of us who fought in Bangladesh, we cannot deny the credit to those people, the troops and officers and teachers who have fought in the Western sector.
Right.
Without their contribution in the Western sector, our own success may not have been possible. So it was a combined effort on both sides. So the credit is to the Indian Armed Forces, not only to X, Y, Z or A, B, C. Yes, some of us stand out better than the others, undeniably. But that's what war is.
Right, sir. And after the war, you have served in the army for how long, sir?
That was the start of my career. I was served for 30 more years after that.
30 more years. And you commanded any RT unit, sir?
Yeah, I commanded 244 medium regiment.
Okay. And these were at that time. I mean, these were armed with.
The regiment I commanded was equipped with 105 mm IFG Indian field gun, and later it was equipped with 130 mm M46 medium guns.
Achha. And after your retirement, sir, you have been. How has been life?
Well, I am keeping myself busy. Worked initially for the corporate, then tried my hand with business with my old army boss and prefab structures and solar panels. And now currently I am keeping myself busy and trying to write down my memoirs, things of the sort. That's all.
Still wonderful experience, sir. I mean, and I hope you thrive a lot in whatever you are doing. And I do read a lot of your write-ups as well sometimes. Wonderful.
Life has been very kind to me.
Right. But thank you, sir, whatever you did in 71.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for your services.
Thank you, Devu. Thank you for having me on your program.
Thank
Really
you, sir.
grateful.
And we'll
Take
talk
care
again.
and
Okay, sir. Thank you.